the info session on the ESG program, sponsored by the UH Energy, which is part of University of Houston. UH Energy is an initiative that is on behalf of the Chancellor of the University of Houston, and it is headed by Dr. Ramanan Krishnamurthy. And I am my name is Radha Krishnan, and I'm the Managing Director for UH Energy. I also, work for the Bauer School of Business, and I teach over there. So let me welcome all of you to the info session. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend this. Hope the information that we provide you would be valuable in making your decision, okay? In terms of whether you would like to participate, you'd like to get others in your organization to participate, whichever way it works out. Okay, so thank you very much for that. Let me go ahead and introduce a couple of my colleagues who are here. I have Amy Mifflin. Amy is, I'll ask her to introduce just like you all did. She will be one of the, she is the primary force behind the course. She will teach most of it. But Amy, go ahead, and then a little bit of introduction on your side.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Radha. Yes, Amy Mifflin. I've been in the energy sector for 30 years, starting out in the utility and sales and marketing, and then eventually finding myself inside of diversity at the utility way back when, in the early days before the inclusion part came along. Came to Houston in 2002, working for Marathon Oil and standing up their diversity and inclusion office, and then 4 years later on the ground floor of the corporate social responsibility department that was built from the ground up there as well. Then I took a hiatus and did some consulting work on my own, and then found myself at Motiva Enterprises, which at the time was jointly owned by Shell and Aramco. Shell divested out, and so I stood up their sustainability framework as well as their diversity, equity, and inclusion framework. So long history and background in this space, did international work as well as domestic US work.
Generally for any one of these programs to be quite, effective, we have a lot of people who help make it happen. And we have Kyle Kinder. He is the one who makes all this magic happen. Whether it is, projecting all of these, making sure it is recorded and then edited and then posted later on for you to look at. All of that, all the websites where you went in for information, Kyle is the mastermind behind it. So thanks, Kyle. We also have Lee Lopez, and Lee is the administrative person for this entire program. She helps out with all your registrations and making sure, all your paperwork and other things are right, and keeps us honest. So thanks both Kyle and Lee for their help. So a little bit more about, just like Amy said, I have been in the last 10 years, I have been at the University of Houston, essentially in the business school and at UH Energy. Prior to that, I worked for 36 years at Shell in various roles, mostly on the business side and mostly in management. So with that, we will get started. We also have Neda. Neda, we have been just going around and then talking to people. If you can take a minute to say, a little bit about your background and why interested in this course.
Hi, yes, I'm a U of H Law Center graduate, an attorney, and I am very interested in the energy sector generally, and I'm just interested in this course because I was free, and I'm curious to hear more about the topic. Thank you. Very good.
So with that, we will get started. What we, when we were thinking about putting this course together, this was driven by an event that we had. We'd always been interested in corporate social responsibility, sustainability, and ESG. And so we had about a year ago, we had a gathering of about 18 different people from the industry, mostly upstream, both in the operations side as well as in services, and a few from downstream. And so these people, they were all involved in some form or the other in this entire area of social responsibility, environmental, stewardship, environmental issues, as well as on the governance side. So we got all of them together, and the bottom line was we were asking them, what are some of the areas that are gaps that we at the University of Houston can help bridge? One of the things that came out was the fact that there are lots of people out there who are all self-trained in the area of ESG. I use ESG as sort of like an umbrella term, although under that, there is an evolution of those. So I'm just using the more recent version of it, the statement. So when we looked at it, they said there is no formal training. So most people in their jobs were self-trained. They were actually put into it. They were in one department or the other. And as a result, they felt a formal training would be very helpful. And what they also mentioned was, rather than people wanting to go and take a whole degree in this, which is quite time consuming and a lot more material have to be covered, they said, we would really like something which is very skill oriented, because we are already working in the industry. If I can have the right skills, then I can be very productive in this area. So this course, very heavily designed by Amy and a bunch of other people that I will talk about, is essentially aimed at that. Essentially a skilled base. So you learn how to do things, tools, techniques, procedures, processes, and some background on how you should think about these. The whole course is essentially designed by we have within UH Energy, we have a consortium for energy corporate social responsibility, CECSR. And the board of advisors for the CECSR includes Amy. It includes people from Shell. We have a representative from Oxy. We have a representative from Schlumberger and an independent consultant. So sum total of all of this, we had representation from all the different sectors in order to talk to us about how we should design this course. They are also advising us on various other things. So with that, let me just start sharing our slide deck and then go from there. Okay, there we are. All right. So we had one information session, which says December 2nd. This is the second one. So hopefully this is quite helpful to you. As I had mentioned, one of the things that people said was this whole area is developing. There was no formal training. Many of you, when I hear, Rainey saying, as well as Vanessa and Zana, you all have a background to see how this has been emerging. It is becoming all the more important. Most people in the energy sector, they are seriously thinking about an energy transition, which is transition with a focus on providing global, the population, which is growing, with affordable, reliable, and sustainable energy. The last part of it, the sustainable energy part of it, has got huge implications. All of this has got, but that is a key component of the transition where ESG plays a very critical role. Okay, challenges in the ESG role, based on what I just said, is all lots of climate action changes, concern for the environment, and traditional concerns of health and safety, and those have always been there and they continue to be a part of ESG. However, nowadays, with all the pandemic and other concerns arising, there is more concern about how do we handle this pandemic and also on human rights. So all this are examples of how the scope of ESG is increasing and how well do companies govern themselves in order to handle it. As Rainey pointed out, she's from the investment community. So there is a lot of interest on the part of the investment community to say, all these things pose a certain amount of risk to the business. How should I look at it? How should I handle it? And how should I use that in order to invest in different companies? So that has taken on a little different kind of an orientation. And it is also reaching out to people at a different level in the corporation, mostly the board. So what is this program all about? It provides a structured process for building or bridging your ESG program. Some of you already probably have an ESG program. Like if I hear, Vanessa talk about it, or essentially Zana, you already have good understanding. How do we take it to the next level? So bridging that. And it is offered, as I said, by UH Energy. And this is very heavily advised by the advisory board members of the Consortium for Energy Corporate Social Responsibility. What is nice about this program is this is not about somewhere sitting down and making it into a theoretical exercise based on some academic orientation. This is a lot more designed and presented by leaders from the industry and accomplished faculty from U of H, many of whom have worked in the industry. So it's a good combination, very heavy orientation towards bringing you real live situations. And so those who are lecturing have probably walked that path before. As Amy said, she's got about 30 years and a whole bunch of which was spent in this, working for different corporations. It is the way we offer it, which I will talk about, is in a very structured thing called badges. It's covered in the next slide. And the program provides the necessary skill sets for starting to build a foundation for the ESG program. Obviously, this area can have lots of areas that people could be interested. The first 3 badges that we have to do with providing you a solid foundation. I will talk about what they are shortly. Participants develop their business plan. That means at the end of it, when you really leave, you will not only have a roadmap of how you want to develop your plan, you will also understand what skill sets are required, and you will also know how to, in terms of stakeholder management and risk management. Many of them will be, participants will build their ready to apply practical skill set. When I say that, so if you leave after the course is over, it is not like you have to start all over and learn something. You have learned enough tools that you can start applying. So let me just stop here to see whether Amy has any comments to add.
Yes, thanks, Dr. Rada. What I would want to emphasize from this initial piece is that we're not here to say this is one way or one pathway. We're going to try to give you a very broad look at the different ways in which people have tackled the building of sustainability, corporate social responsibility, and then how that mirrors into their ESG programming. So it's really going to be quite a dynamic course. where you'll get to hear a variety of those pieces. And the point of that is to give you an opportunity to actually adapt those things to what you already know, what you're already doing, or should you go to a new company and you're building one from scratch, you'll have those that capability, that know-how to how to build it from the foundation up.
Any questions? Okay, we will then we will continue. So we talked a little bit about the badging program. You know, this is a little different than taking a course in your university. Your university course generally, you know, runs for about 42 to 45 hours, and it earns you at 3 credit hours. You normally have to apply that towards some kind of a degree program. Occasionally, courses are offered which are, you know, you get some credit, but it doesn't apply to any program immediately, but later on you can. This one is a little different. These are pretty much based on modules of 15 hours each over, in this case, 4 weeks. And after that, we have a little 2-week period when you'd finish some work, and then we start the next batch. At the end of each 15 hours, you get a digital badge. And so a badge completion requires that you finish all your homework, quizzes, final exam. It has got all the rigors of an academic course. So this is not like a, you know, courses that are sometimes offered where you go sit in, listen to it, and whether you have learned or not, you still get a certificate at the end, and then you move on. This is a little different. The best way to think about these badges is badging is not something new. It has been around, especially in the area of computer and computer programming areas. So people need the required skill set. You go ahead and take something for that, whether it is JavaScript or some other HTML course. And then at the end, you say, I have the skill set. So immediately you go and then apply it. This is very much like that. So there are 3 badges that we work through. And they are, the first one would be on a development of a framework. So an ESG framework development. And then we will talk a little bit about stakeholder management and then managing ESG risk. Some of these terms you may have heard about, but I will later on go through each one of them and explain what is going to be different in what we cover. Okay. The one thing nice about these badges is we go through, an organization called a Badger who manages these badges. So as soon as you get a badge, you can post it on your LinkedIn account. And when somebody clicks on it, it goes to the Badger site. And there they can learn everything about what are the things that you learned. This is different from a university course, because when you take a university course, if you just say, well, I have taken this course, most employers don't have a good feel for topics you have covered, skill sets you have built, and so on. Whereas here, they will be able to look at them. And so people can look you up on LinkedIn and say, oh, this person has this, so maybe we'll consider them for our company. So as I said, about the learning objectives are upon completion. So you will not only understand, but you will be skilled at. So the evolution of ESG and why is it important to business. So we will go through that and then talk a little bit about what are some core competencies and skills and responsibilities that are essential for this work. So let us say you go in and what we had heard from people whom we interviewed was essentially they grew into the job. There is no real succession ladder, nor there is clear definition of what you learn and what will take you to the next level. So here in this case, we provide some of that. And when I say this, if you are joining in as an engineer, you just start out initially as a junior engineer, then you become a process engineer, you become an engineering a supervisor, then you become a manager. So there is a hierarchy. And for each one of them, you build more skills. So we will walk you through what some of those skills are to do what kinds of jobs within the area of ESG. So if you're managing a group of 2 or 3 people and you're looking for what kind of talent you're looking for. So we will also walk you through how to build the ESG framework. Where are you and where would you like to be? What are the kinds of things that you need to go through to fill the gap? Of course, the whole area of building a stakeholder management. Many of you may have heard about stakeholder management and been doing it, but here the focus is a lot more about how do you understand the needs of people who are your stakeholders and how do you prioritize them, how do you develop programs, and how do you deliver on it. Finally, we'll also talk about ESG risks. That's what you will leave. The difference between most corporations do risks and risk management. Here, it's a highly focused one on how to identify ESG risks. So I'll talk about it a little bit later. So with that, who should attend? What we have written here is, if you're already in the business, like Zana said, she has been in various areas of HSC, social performance. Different people have been in different jobs already, never with the clear title of having to look at ESG. And if they really wanted to get in and say, well, the company is starting an effort on this with a focal point, now you will learn how those are the people who can come in, learn about how to transit. And then finally, it's also about those who are aspiring to join the energy industry and wish to build competencies in this area. This is certainly a growing area. So let me stop here for a second and see whether Amy wants to add anything to it, and then see if you have any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Rada. One of the things that I'll also share is we have taken extra care and due diligence, especially in areas where we talk about skills and capabilities and the roles that are evolving out of this, because many of us know that have been in the industry for a while. We ended up writing our own job descriptions back in the day to formulating what this discipline has evolved to be. It's still changing and still in that growth trajectory. So what we did in especially the skills and capabilities piece is we tied that to actual skill sets that are relatable to your organization. So they are going to be key. It'll be key terminology from Korn Ferry that many HR human resource groups use to build out skills and capability pieces as well. So we want to highlight some of that, because once you get into the program, you'll see some of the depth of how we've created certain aspects of this so that it's easily managed by you, the individual, but also portable so that you can take it from job to job or company to company.
Any comments, questions, suggestions? All right, we will move on and continue with now I think the thing that I would like to go is probably into each one of these badges. And a badge, as a reminder, is about 15 hours. We meet twice a week, and each time it is about 2 hours. So we meet twice a week, that is 4 hours a week. And in 3 weeks, we are done with 12 hours. There is always about 3 hours of homework. So some of which may be go through for your company and then develop this or put together that, read these articles. So it will have so that your knowledge is expanding, your skill set you are starting to apply already. So that is the intent. The first one is all about developing a framework. So there are lots of different frameworks. And as Amy pointed out earlier, ours is not to be prescriptive and to say you will have to use this framework. All we are going to do is expose you to the various frameworks, talk about the, what do they do and what is accomplished if you were to use such a framework and what may not be accomplished. So with the result, you can pick and tailor make what makes sense for your organization, because everyone's is a little different. And, so that may be the kind. And when I look at here, Riney, who is in private equity, I don't know how much of internal ESG they do, but they are who are evaluating a lot of companies and then probably putting recommendations. So their orientation may be a little bit in terms of developing skills in that area, but having a broad understanding of what others are doing and what are they measuring and is that important. But as opposed to somebody in upstream or in a service organization, their emphasis could be a little different. So we will just walk you through various dimensions of ESG. So there is an awareness, clearly there is an education. We'll also share companies, reports, how they think about it. And so the main here is, what areas do people focus on depending upon their business? And what are they reporting on? Are they reporting on everything? Are they reporting on portions of it? Do they follow somebody's guidelines on reporting, or they take the best that fits their needs? All of that. And then we'll also talk about how do people integrate ESG into their operations. Generally, all this ESG work, just like when we started out with safety almost 30 years ago, it was not just an independent department that's called safety, and then they do their work and the rest of the guys go ahead and do whatever they do. It is not that way. It's got to become an integral part of all operations. So how do we think about that? And how do we get that to happen? So that's what we will cover here. Skills and tools required to manage ESG. And Amy talked a little bit about all the core competencies, skills that you need, understanding all of that we will walk through. Finally, all of this is being taught to you by people who have lots of understanding. As such, when you pose a question, they give you, based on their experiences, whatever they think would be a good way to think about it. Again, most of these guys have been around for a long time and know there is no silver bullet in this one. So you need to keep your mind open because things keep changing and you need to change where you put the emphasis. So we will work through a lot of examples and case studies, and we'll also, each one of the participants will develop for their organization a framework. It may be quite drafty, but at least we will help them how to think about it. And then later on, they can go ahead, socialize it in their own organization, depending upon whatever is getting bought into, then start work on it. Let me quickly take you to the next one, stakeholder management. And this has been around for a long time. People hear about stakeholder management, but here we will be, from an ESG standpoint, we will really worry about how do we identify key stakeholders. Generally, when people think about stakeholders, they're thinking about external, but internal stakeholders are equally important because a lot of the work has got to get done by people inside. So understanding how they think about it, assessment of what their needs are, and then most importantly, now that you have understood, prioritizing and then figuring out a strategy on how you're going to meet their needs. Some of the needs you may put low priority, some may be high priority, and you develop programs that has got to be bought into, funded, and implemented. So development of engagement capabilities of operations and other staff interfering with this. Most importantly, you develop a process for stakeholder management, which everyone in the company follows. So uniform way, so that no two people approaching the same stakeholder have a different way of looking at it. Amy can tell you stories on this. If you are looking at your neighborhood community, and there are several people interacting, from the plant manager to operations manager to people who are having a day-to-day dealings with them. Everyone should follow the same process, as opposed to somebody saying something and somebody else saying something else. So how do we develop that? That's important. So once again, we will always have industry experts really teaching many of these things. Most importantly, we'll have some case studies. How do you think about in this situation? How will you understand their needs and how will you manage it? So that we will go through. Last one, covering on managing ESG risk. Risk management is something that every company does, regardless of their size. And I don't have to say much about it. Probably Rainey deals with it every day in her job. As an investment company, they're always looking at risks. People look at risks different ways. So what is their focus and how do they identify it? So in many upstream, midstream, and downstream organizations, people do understand business risks. But do they understand risks that are composed from ESG? So identifying risks. So talking about various kinds with examples. So you have just sort of like a list of things that you can be checking for, and over time you will develop your own list. And more importantly, assessing that risk. Most business risks are assessed on likelihood of occurrence and the business impact. That is the portion that is going to be tough for ESG. So how do you think about it? What is the likelihood and how do we look at the impact? That we will cover. And then finally, you can be doing all of this risk. If it is not part of the corporate risk register, it is not being reviewed and actions being taken. So how do you incorporate that into the corporate risk register, and so that there is periodic reviews and actions taken? So we will go through this with lots of case studies. So let me stop there for a second and see if anybody has any questions and if Amy has any comments to add.
Yes, one of the things that we've heard from participants over the last couple of years is also on the stakeholder management processes, as well as the risk processes, how to integrate those into your operational excellence performance management systems. And there are certainly, it does take a lot of effort and energy because sometimes these components have not been recognized as important to the overall operational excellence management system. But by integrating it, it becomes even more important internally for employees, no matter where they sit, that operational excellence standard is what is used and is consistently applied in all of their business and dealings, whether that be internal or external. So we don't want to take you back to stakeholder engagement 101 or any of those type of things. We think you'll all be very seasoned in that. We want to take it to another level over stakeholder management and how to actually integrate that into better ways of working and engaging across your business platform. And the same with risk management. We're just going to add the, scramble that everyone is in right now on how ESG and investors and the external community and the pressure points that are being put on the energy sector. So we'll take deeper dives into that as well.
Any comments, questions? Well, let's
A quick question.
Please.
So there's quizzes and a final exam for each badge separately?
Yeah, what we do is as you go through, the badges for 15 hours. So you have 2 classes every week, 2 hours each. So there could be a homework at the end of each week. So either it could be progressing on your own roadmap or thinking about, some of the things that you have learned in stakeholder management or risk management. It could be a case study that is given that you solve. So you do that at the end of the first week, second week, and third week. There is also at the end of each class, there could be, during the class, there could be some short pop quizzes, which are, are you following the material that we are talking about? Those are not part of the evaluation, but it gives a feedback, how well people have understood or not understood. If they have not understood, we can go back and then reinforce it again. But the end of the week, what we do is things that build up so you can have an exam at the end. The final exam is, again, it could be a project that you turn in, or it could be 10 questions, multiple choice, and then you answer them on key concepts, not on trivial issues, but mostly on key concepts. Did that help?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So let's just go ahead and look at the forward schedule for these. This one, when are they offered? So the first badge is going to start on January 4th, and it'll go through January 20th. So each week we meet on Mondays and Wednesdays, and currently we are scheduled to meet from 3 to 5. And the main reason we put it 3 to 5 is most people are working, and so they can easily, since this is part of their work or self-improvement at work, so they can take time. However, if the bulk of it felt that it needs to be moved a little bit, we can work on it. After that badge is over, you get a couple of days off, and then you start on the stakeholder management, which run again about 4 weeks. Yeah. Okay, and then the last one is March 1 through March 17th. So you're essentially done by by end of March. Your badges are all over. We do all of these classes using Zoom, and we have a system by which you can, all the course material and other things are posted, and you can look at it, and you can take share it. Every class is recorded, and as such, if you missed a portion of it or you want to really listen to it again, you can play that video back again and then listen to that. So the last slide, I believe, yeah, it gives you, the way we had it is individual badges are $1,000 per badge, but if you signed up for all three, then it is $2,700. So you get about a 10% discount. And we feel that the three together gives you a solid foundation. And obviously, after this, you may want to look at other ones. And we have a whole bunch of upcoming topics, like on reporting, on human rights. When I talk about reporting, there are lots of different standards by which people use. Which one should you use, what they are, all of that, expose you to things like that. Human rights, lots of discussion on this. And I don't know, I'm sure Vanessa in her, what she wrote up for the Biden's group, lots of things on human rights. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, community development. So there is a whole bunch of topics. What we are waiting is, as soon as we go through the first round, we will get feedback from, again, you as well as industry, and that's what will decide what are some of the courses that we can offer next. So I'll stop there. And again, Amy, if you have any comments, and then we will open it up for questions.
Yes, I wanted to address the homework and quiz thing. I just wanted to emphasize that we're not here to inundate you with a bunch of homework or anything of that nature. It will all be very relevant to what we're doing, and the goal is to naturally and seamlessly kind of include those pieces so that they tie directly to the learnings and what you're building. We had talked about having participants, as they go through the program, build upon their own strategy and roadmap. So that will be a big component of what your homework will look like. So it'll just be relevancy. You know, how you spend, you know, time taking notes when you're at conferences, and then you go back and throw it on your desk and you go, oh, I wonder where those are. So in this case, what we really want you to do is kind of put that material into good use, and so that you have really developed some great plans that you can always reference when you need to.
Excellent point that you made is when you leave the class, hopefully you've already got a good game plan. Maybe draft, but still you have it, that you feel convinced, but now you can go ahead and then talk to your colleagues, your supervisor, and so you are ready to start implementing, or at least start working on the implementation part of it, getting buy-in and so on.
And you don't have to work for a company either. This material is designed that you can use even a fictional company, or you can think about your past strategies or past work that you've done. So it doesn't necessarily mean, because we've had in the other informational session several people who also were not associated with a company or were doing consulting work. So it's really about helping build those skills and those, or build that skill set out. So it's not, doesn't have to be relevant to what work you're currently doing, may be relevant to work you may do in the future.
We will open it up. Any questions and comments? I know we had Nada, no, we talked to Nada, but who else joined later on? No.
I think the others, the others had to go as well. So
yeah, correct. Vanessa had to leave. She had to pick up her son from school.
Yes.
So.
Well, certainly you guys can reach out to us at any time. You know, I don't know if our emails are anywhere here, but you can certainly find us in LinkedIn and send us a message there as well. But we will certainly look forward to, you've got the links. Thank you, Kyle, for putting the links in for the program and the application. So you should have an opportunity to, you know, chat with any of us should you need to before signing up.
I have a question. You mentioned that this program is not new, and you already had some graduates of the program. Is that correct?
No, we had an informational session.
Oh, just an informational session.
There was another informational session that we had.
I believe I saw on the website that there was earlier this year in the summer, I believe, starting in July, there was another sustainability program, and the format, how it was presented, how it was taught, it was very similar to this one. Was it a success?
Yes, I can answer that. There have been, you know, two, and then we are right in the middle of a third one. The first one was on sustainable energy development. So how do corporations think about developing their sustainable energy or their energy transition? How should they be thinking about it? And that we went through. It was again 3 badges, and about 22 students took that, and very successful. Everybody had very positive feedback. We had lots of interesting people come in and then talk about, since the nature of that was a little different. We had, you know, senior people, like a head of Shell Oil, former head of Shell Oil spoke at it. You know, senior managing partner of McKinsey was one of the, you know, speakers on many sessions. So these guys were there for many sessions. We had other industry folks also come and then talk about it, who are all experts in that. We also have one other program that we have delivered already, and then a second version of it is already underway. And that has got to do with data analytics in the energy industry. So energy data analytics. The first round, we had about 25 students, and extremely positive feedback that they were very hands-on, they were able to use. So they were taught tools and techniques about how they can analyze seismic data, how to analyze well data, and then so on, production data, and so on. And we are running through a second course of the same thing, second round of that. It is also being received very well. So lots of our learnings in terms of designing this have been based on these earlier works. What can we do to make it much more interesting and hands-on, where it is not about a lot of theory, but also making people, do work so that it's useful.
Would it be possible to see reviews of the program somewhere? Are they posted somewhere on the website?
Yeah, let me ask you, you wanted to learn about what? I missed that word.
Yeah, just the feedback from other students about the learning format.
Okay, so what I can do is we can send you to Kyle. We have all of those in some of the websites, correct?
Okay.
Yeah, Kyle has it. I will write it down, and then
we do have some of the testimonials at the bottom of the upstream energy data analytics program page.
Okay, thank you. I'll have a look at those before making the investments. So thank you.
No problem. And any other question? I hope this was helpful to you, and hope if you decide to make an investment and join with us, we will have between now and the time classes start. We will have what we call as an orientation session. So we bring in people from from those who are going to be participants, and it's an informal one so that you get to know each other. And that's also a time when we share what are some pre-reading, pre-work that you can be doing to get ready for the course. Okay, we have done this we do this very regularly for our MBA programs at the business school and the executive MBA. For both of those, we have those orientation sessions. They're very helpful in people getting to know each other. And especially in a COVID world where everybody is virtual, that sort of knowing each other is very valuable. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate your attendance.
Thank you. Take
Anything
care.
else you want to add, Amy?
Nope, that's great. And Kyle just posted, Sana, the Sustainable Energy Development testimonials. So grab that link before you hang up.
So you can probably click on that and then go down to all of those. And Kyle, the one on data analytics is already at the bottom of the data analytics one?
That one is currently not up yet, no, but we hope to get that up fairly soon. Yes.
Okay, very soon. Okay. All right.
Well, great. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you all very much. Thank you, Huda. Thank you, Rainey. And thanks so much, Zana. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Have a safe and healthy holiday season, everyone.
You all take care.
Holidays, yes. Thank you.